made by Dr. Arturo Gogo, our first head of the Department of Physiology, was also our mentor during our time during the 1980s. But he's still in the United States. But I added from what he made because uh, I find it hard to understand. Maybe the student could not connect with it based on the fact that Gaiton released a complicated book. Okay, so we'll try to make it the easiest that we can, but substantial, of course. So the we have said that the functions of the kidney is the excretion of the metabolic waste products and foreign chemicals. That's why we are not intoxicated with the dirt from our body because it is the kidney that excretes. So from the process of urine formation, of course, which is filtration, diba, filtration, then reabsorption and secretion, these three processes. After that, the urine is now ready to be excreted out. So, and remember always that right after filtration would be the reabsorption of substances that are needed so that they will go back to, of course, to the body system via the di ba, the peritubular capillaries and the vasa recta, di ba? And then at the same time as well, that doesn't mean to say that this is always the third. It may coincide with reabsorption at the same time because, as you know what, from the afferent arterioles, di ba? From the afferent arterioles, they will become the glomerulus, right? The glomeruli. And then we have here the base, we have here the Bowman's capsule. So just always remember that there are, of course, the blood will be filtered. Yes, the blood will be filtered through here. From the afferent will go to the glomerulus. They will be filtered, of course. And then most of the substances will be reabsorbed, of course, because they're needed by the body. But remember that, always remember that there are still a blood flow going there because we have here the efferent arterioles. So there are actually some substances, for example, a part of creatinine may not, usually creatinine can be filtered here, no problem, and creatinine will not be reabsorbed. I tell you, creatinine 99 point, say like 9.5%, bali almost all of creatinine is not reabsorbed. It will be filtered, okay, but that's why if you will notice, now that you are now doctors and if you have been medical technologists before and or nurses before, you notice that the serum creatinine is a good indicator for serum creatinine, is a good indicator for renal function. Because if, for example, you have an elevated creatinine in your serum, that means to say that there could be something wrong in your kidney. Maybe your kidney has a disease simply because creatinine should be excreted out totally, almost totally. BUN, you have noticed also that blood urea nitrogen, di ba? BUN, uh, it was also requested, BUN and creatinine. You notice, creatinine and creatinine, it was requested. So you actually have a ratio of 20 BUN to 1 creatinine in your serum. That means to say that blood urea nitrogen is actually also excreted out, but urea kasi can be reabsorbed. A part of urea can be reabsorbed and recycled in the body. Okay, it can, a small part of it, but majority of it would go out. Okay, that's why you don't have to, would be excreted out. That's why you don't have to wonder why is it that you have a higher ratio of BUN in our body compared with the creatinine. Although both of them could be indicators of a functioning kidney. So if you have a very high BUN, a very high BUN, greatly let's say, for example, more than 20:1, you have a great elevated BUN, and you have an elevated creatinine in our body. So meaning, this is very high as well. That means you really have a problem in your kidney. That's why you want more to know the creatinine, or if ever man you want to know the problem in your kidney, you get the BUN creatinine ratio. But creatinine is more sensitive in as much as it is not really actually reabsorbed. So just don't be afraid if, for example, you have a elevated BUN. If you have an elevated BUN in your blood but you did not get your creatinine, uh, do not just be, don't panic immediately, because actually BUN may be elevated for some other reasons, because remember, they are being recycled there in their body, or but your creatinine may not yet be high, meaning that the kidney is actually a functioning. But if you have a elevation of both, the creatinine is also very, very high, then there's something wrong, huh? Okay, so, but however, BUN is also paired with creatinine as long as you try to get the ratio, huh? 20:1 is actually the normal. We will have to discuss it later on. But what I just would like to tell you is that creatinine is actually almost always totally excreted out, but blood urea nitrogen can be reabsorbed kasi, a part of it. But a part of it is excreted out, most of it. Huh? So, therefore, for the determination of function of a kidney, when it comes to biotin and creatinine is a better hallmark compared with the BUN. So, excretion of the metabolic waste and products and foreign chemicals, then regulation of water, electrolyte balance. Actually, we have discussed this, a part of it, diba? The aldosterone, aldosterone S, sodium is reabsorbed at the D, distal convoluted tubule, and of course with that, when it is reabsorbed, water follows. So it regulates at the same time the water and electrolyte imbalances. Actually, after our main quiz, after our quiz on Monday, I still be the lecturer kasi we will be discussing actually about the electrolytes and the acid-base imbalance. So the regulation of fluid osmolality and electrolyte concentration. A part of this, we will be discussing later on about the milliosmoles. We have been discussing about it at 300 milliosmoles in the concentration. Milliosmoles 300 in our blood, and at the same time when it goes to the kidneys, it will still back as 300 milliosmoles. The osmolar concentration of solutes in our body will still become 300 milliosmoles. It's about because of the countercurrent mechanism. We have discussed this partially a part of it. Later on, you will see more. Then regulation of arterial pressure. The more we have been discussing the sodium, the RAS, the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone, plus the ADH mechanism. Wherein the renin is a vasoconstrictor, aldosterone at the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct will absorb the sodium. So water follows, so increasing, therefore, the blood volume, therefore raising more the blood pressure. So renin-angiotensin. So angiotensin 2, which is a positive vasoconstrictor, stimulates the formation of aldosterone, and angiotensin 2 as well also, if the insult is too much, will also stimulate the production of antidiuretic hormone, and antidiuretic hormone AAAA opens the aquaporin pores so that water also can enter, raising therefore the blood volume at the distal convoluted tubules and the collecting ducts as well. Okay. So we go, then the regulation of acid-base balance. Yes, we will have this after the quiz. Okay. Then the secretion, metabolism, and excretion of hormones. We will have some discussion on this after the quiz. Okay. But we have discussed this one already. You secrete. So at the same time, look at this and above. secretion. It's important because there are kasi some is as if even though you are filtering here, you're going down here, actually blood flows, di ba blood flows continuously going there to the efferent arterioles, right? And these efferent arterioles will become your, of course, you know that they will become your peritubular capillaries and vasa recta. And then they will become well to your veins, di ba? To the veins later on. So that you can, so there are kasi some substances that were not filtered. If ever they were not filtered here, they will be going there. But you have to remove them from the body. You have to remove them from the body because they are bad. They are bad substances. So from the blood vessel, they will actually be secreted. They will go out to the process of secretion, and they will go to the interstitial space, and they will go now to the lumen again, to the lumen here of your tubules, so that they will go out of your body, so that they will not kill you. They will not toxify you. Huh? That's why they have to, that is the secretion. So reabsorption naman from the lumen of the tubule going to your interstitium, going to your blood vessel, so that they will go back to your body. But the secretion is, there are some substances, if for example some substances were not filtered here, they can still get out of our body through going to the efferent arteriole, and from the efferent arteriole, of course, you know, di ba, they will become the efferent arterioles, they will become the vasa recta, di ba, and then the peritubular capillaries. So they will actually, if ever they are toxic, if they have to get out of the body, they will be secreted from the lumen of the blood vessel, going to the interstitium, going to here to the lumen of your tubules. They will get out na to your body. That is secretion. So, meaning to say, if they are bad really, they, at the moment that they have been filtered here, and then they will be reabsorbed here at the proximal convoluted tubules, secretion could actually follow because, di ba, the blood would immediately go here. Blood naman talaga from the arteriole glomerulus will go to the efferent arteriole. Only that it just so happened that some were secreted. That's why this was emphasized. But if they are bad, they will really get out. Yes, God made it so that they will get out through the peritubular capillaries. They will be secreted going there. Huh? So like the antibiotics also, when we drink mga antibiotics, so they have to be secreted out. Yes, huh? Okay, so therefore that's secretion. Metabolism as well. And then of course, excretion of hormones, no problem. Doc, what do we mean here by metabolism? A very good example of metabolism is this, doctors, huh? This one. Okay, a good example is this. Demand glucogenesis, it will be covered by Dr. Monsanto, of course, because the kidneys is also important for glucogenesis, the production of glucose. Okay. But this one is very important in the standpoint of physiology. Okay. So, I'll call now first the reactor, ha? I'll call now the reactor. So, Dr. Advincula. Oh, no, sorry, Dr. Alcover pala. Dr. Alcover. Hello? Are you there?
Yes, Doc.
Dr. Alcover, so open your mic. So, this is a bonus for you, ha? Metabolism. This is for all of you because this is an interesting topic. Okay. So, Doctor, this is the
Yes, Doc.
kidney. Okay. I will also be using RAM, ha? I also be using RAM. You will be using RAM. This is the kidney. Okay. So, one of the function of the kidney is for the metabolism of hormones. And it has a good purpose. So, if di ba, you are aware that we also have thyroid. You're aware that we have thyroid glands. Di ba? We have thyroid glands too. Right and left lobe of the thyroid gland. One thyroid gland only, but we have right and left lobe of the thyroid gland. And we know that the thyroid gland, di ba, if you have seen our first, did you see our first MacUB? Actually, maybe you were still very, very young then kasi you were just within a month. So you were not, but I would like to tell you now that the thyroid gland, it secretes the thyroid hormone, right? But the thyroid gland, there are actually parathyroid glands there that are at the outside of it, there is parathyroid glands. So if the thyroid, there's also a parathyroid gland. They're just actually located just beside the thyroid gland. They're small, the parathyroid. You can Google search for this one later on. But the parathyroid gland is important. The parathyroid, what is the function of the parathyroid? D is the end. Parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland actually helps in the final stage formation of the active form of vitamin D. O parathyroid, parathyroid D. You know what? The vitamin D that we have in our body, remember this, the vitamin D that we have in our body is actually, we can have that through our food that we take, through the food that we take, of course. But a part of it is from the inactive form of vitamin D that we have in our skin. Di ba in our skin? In our skin, di ba? We have an active form of vitamin D, and that is made possible by the sunlight. The sunlight, di ba? The sunlight turns the inactive form of vitamin D, which is actually in our skin. Oh, di ba, Dr. Alcover, your skin is prone
Yes,
to
Doc.
is prone to dehydration, di ba?
Yes,
For
Doc.
example, if you have sunlight, you get dehydrated. Or if, for example, if you have been having LBM, loose bowel movement, the skin becomes dehydrated. So I try to make use of that word dehydration because the inactive form actually of vitamin D in our skin is dehydrocholecalciferol. Dehydrocholecalciferol. So through the sun, the one form of the first stage of the formation of a vitamin D would be in the form of a dehydrocholecalciferol, dehydrated skin. Okay. Later on, this will travel to your liver, and this will be converted into the hydroxycholecalciferol. I remember hydroxy. I don't forget because I remember, di ba, it is the liver that, okay, it is the liver that produces the bile, ha? It is the liver. But the gallbladder only stores the bile. Always remember that. Because you know what? The interns now, even actually the board placers of medical technologists, when they were first year, of course I understand. I do understand this because that's the joy kasi of being young and a neophyte. Okay? So all the while you were thinking that because you for example, you got board placer in the medtech, you know everything. No, in medicine you have to be humble. Actually, expect for the unexpected. Okay, so I made that I made an exam kasi before for they were first year, but though they're interns now, they're now interns. Okay, I made that true all false. So I said the gallbladder produces the bile. So they answered true. False. It is the bile, the liver cells produce the bile. And then the gallbladder only stores the bile. And so you know what, they got mad at me, and then they bullied me in the kuan, they bullied me in the on RTR, on the stairs of RTR. They have to face. They got, you tell the book, you read the book. Because they were thinking kasi that it is the gallbladder kasi because it is the one that produces because it is the bile is there. Sabi ko, yes, you read the book, use Google search, and then they cannot accept the fact kasi. So they Google search and then they said, oh, wow. I'm sorry, Doc, pala it is pala kuno the gallbladder that's only stores. Yes. Oh, so,
Kompleto, Doc.
So, sige. So, it is so this is the gallbladder that stores. Okay. So they actually they were very humble na. From that time they were already they, they were talking na slowly because you might do. So in medicine kasi, for example, I also made another question on them. Number 2, they also got mad at me because they say, the saliva ba? The saliva, di ba? The saliva,
Yes, Doc.
The saliva, of course, you know that the saliva will produce amylase. Di ba? The saliva kasi, the saliva has amylase. Di ba? It
Yes, Doc.
produces, di ba, it because it will will conversion of the starch but that we the food that we do with the bread will be turned into preformed the pre-digested carbohydrates, di ba? Saliva. I told them number one, so the saliva produces lipase. So they said false. They said false because, di ba, you're a medtech, di ba, you associate lipase with the pancreas at the same
Yes,
time.
Doc.
The amylase. Pancreas, amylase, yes, also, it produces amylase. Di ba?
Yes, Doc.
So they said, no, because lipase is produced by the pancreas. Yeah, sabi ko, false. The pancreas produces lipase, but the saliva also produces lipase. Only that, it does not act there on the saliva. The lipase will be going all throughout. It will even be produced by the stomach mucosa, and it will also be produced by the lipase, the amylase. There, when the lipase now, they have been accumulated there, all together, they will act na there at the intestine, that lipase for the digestion of fats. So they answered actually false, and then they got mad again because I said, so they answered false because they said saliva does not produce lipase. They look at the book. Google search. And then when they said again, yes, Doctor, sorry, it produced pala. Ha? So, it's an honor actually, Dr. Alcover and the rest of Med1, it's an honor to be a medical student. Ha? It's an honor, it's a gift from God because you tend to know more. Ha? Ha?
Yes, Doc.
And be humble also. Be humble. You have many things to learn actually.
Yes,
Ha?
Doc. Be humble, Doc.
Okay, sige. Okay, very good. Okay, I know. Sige, okay, so tata. So, okay ha. So, we have been so it is the gallbladder stores the bile, and then the liver cells produce the bile, di ba? So, the bile is like, di ba, Dr. Alcover, is like it's a fluid, di ba? It's watery, di ba? Only that it is bitter. It is bitter, di ba? The bile. So, watery, it's like hydro. Di ba? Hydro is watery, di ba? Hydro. So, actually, hydroxycholecalciferol is the form of the a form of the vitamin D in the liver. Ha? Then it will go actually for further activation. It will go to the kidney, and that active, the very most active form of vitamin D is actually the dihydroxycholecalciferol. So it is di is like bi, di ba? Bi is 2, di ba? Di ba?
Yes, Doc.
Oo. Di ba bi is 2, 1, 2 bi. So you have 2 kidneys, di ba? 1 kidney, 2 kidney. So you have dihydroxycholecalciferol. Now, what is that hormone which helps in the final activation stage of that dihydroxycholecalciferol in the kidney is D, vitamin D. Ha?
Okay, Doc.
Vitamin D, okay, is vitamin D. And what sorry. What is that hormone? Sorry. What is that hormone? Therefore, that is very helpful in the production of the final stage of the D vitamin active is the parathyroid hormone. Ha? So, look at the D to D connection. And therefore, if you have an active form of vitamin D already, the D is near the C in the alphabet. What is the role of vitamin D? It helps in the absorption of the vitamin, in the absorption of the calcium.
Calcium.
So, calcium. So, calcium now is reabsorbed in the kidneys and at the same time in the intestine. Ha? In the intestine. So, the D is near the C. So, vitamin D helps in the absorption of the calcium. So, other effects of parathyroid. What are the other effects of the parathyroid hormone? So, for example, so therefore, parathyroid helps in the maintenance of the calcium in our blood. Di ba? In our blood.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that
Doc.
you will have a normal calcium. Now, a calcium as well, the parathyroid also helps in the resorption of the bone, the normal resorption, normal resorption of the bone, so that it tries to activate the osteoclasts nga ni, the osteoclasts. It tries to the osteoclasts in our body, so that the osteoclasts kasi they were the one we try to degrade the calcium in our bone, so that they will be resorbed, will go to the blood in order to help in the maintenance of the normal calcium. The parathyroid. It has normal resorption, normal only. That's why if you have a normal resorption, you do not, of course, suffer the deleterious effect of let's say osteomalacia in your bone, because it is normal. The problem, if, for example, you have cancer of your parathyroid gland, cancer ba is, so if you have a cancer of the parathyroid gland, you will be increasing a lot of parathyroid. So one side effect is that if you have an increased a lot of parathyroid hormone, you will have an increased resorption of your bone. So chances are you will have areas of cystic resorption in your bone. You will see that later on, actually. Sometime later, during radiograph anatomy, you have the so-called brown tumors of the bone. Not a tumor actually of the bone, but the bone becomes some sort, di ba, the bone is whitish, di ba, in x-ray, di ba? You can see there's some sort of a black thing because there has been too much resorption. And
Yes,
that means to say your blood will have increased a lot of calcium, because of the resorption. And the increased calcium can also go to your kidneys. Aside from the fact that because you have a lot of vitamin D, because you have an increased, because of a cancer of the parathyroid gland, you will be absorbing much of calcium. So what will be the side effect? You can develop kidney stones.
Yes, Doc.
So that's the connection. So what I mean to say here, can you get the beauty of doing a RAM regarding amazing memory technique? You can actually. Actually, I'm not reading a book. I'm talking spontaneously. So if you put yourself into RAM, and if you want to practice in RAM kasi, di ba, the usual, why do you study? You want to study, so you want to learn. And when you study, you want to learn. And you know, in medicine, di ba, it is not just about understanding, but memory as well. In medicine, memory is very important. And sometimes, if you cannot understand the topic, memorize. Chances are you will pass the exam. Because if you will say, I have already understood that, then I can already sleep na. My God, you'll get 0 because you have to memorize, di ba? Okay.
Yes, Doc.
But if you have a good memory and a good understanding and you have a technique, chances are you'll be on top of the class. So, and then that's why you need to have a RAM, because you'll notice as you study well, you're so diligent, you notice, you are the first one to notice that you have many things to memorize. Diba? And it is your obligation to memorize. So, if you will not have a technique in memorization, you will cry. You will cry. So you need to have a technique. So this is a good technique. Actually, RAM is a form of mnemonics, but you don't anymore do that mnemonic like in high school. Jack and Jill went up the hill to get a pail of water. Even high school, you do that one. So J for Jackstone, A for apple, B for like that. Do not do that in medicine anymore because you'll get lost. Do that in biochem, you'll get lost. Diba? So a RAM is when you try make a mnemonic which is effective because you can see these letters there. Diba? Aldosterone. Aldosterone. If I put that in the test paper, aldosterone, distal convoluted, and collecting duct, sodium, water follows. So, there. Diba? So, that's it. Like for example, di ba, when you were I know you were scandalized when you first met when during the MACUB, the putamen, di ba? Di ba? So the the, di ba the cow date, the scandalous cow date
Amen.
cow date, tapos the lentiform nucleus composed of the puta men, and then the globus pallidus, di ba? So they're actually the striatum of the basal ganglia. So but you have to memorize that, because you know what, putamen is very important, because when you go to the neurology later on, actually, when third by month is coming, so you will be in radiographic anatomy, and I will also be the one to teach you on neurophysiology. I'll be your teacher. So there's a lot of correlation actually. So we will be using that. Puta is a very good term, because di ba, don't deny, di ba, you always hear puta, di ba, with the pedicab driver, di ba, puta nga yawa ka. For example, when you take the exam, di ba, with your classmates, you heard when the exam is hard, di ba, ma'am string, di ba, medtech, di ba, ma'am string, di ba, magkuri manatag ng examen, di ba, sa masika mo at yung mga classmate na lalaki, puta nga yawa ka, kurin examen. Pero they don't mean anything. They're just an expression, di ba? But that's why, or in the jeep, di ba, in the jeep, you heard this, puta kahuhusay ni, yung puta ngayaw, di ba, you hear that, di ba? So, puta is a sort of expression. But don't get mad, just laugh at it, di ba? Just laugh at it. You hear that commonly. Bida ng mga bugoy, kalsada, puta ngayaw, kaurom, pare, puta ngayaw, nakadturak dito, di ba? You hear that. So, it becomes a term that is expression. But, don't get mad at the world. You'll die. So, use the term putamen. Putamen. Okay, So, make good things out of the evil thoughts. Okay, but anyway, actually, it's not evil. They just made it an expression naman. They just make it an expression. So, just do the thing that you can. So, putamen, therefore, is a very important structure, because it is the putamen which is the most commonly affected area in the basal ganglia of the brain when it comes to infarction of the brain and hemorrhage of the brain. Putamen is the most commonly affected area in the basal ganglia when there is infarction, cerebral infarction. Okay. So, Google search on that during your time. Okay. So therefore, that's just an example. So we go na. Okay. So, glomerular filtration, renal blood flow under control according to Dr. Gogo and Gaiton. So the kidney, the ureter, and the bladder. We have talked much, diba, that the ureteral constriction, the bladder, the vesico-ureteral reflux, and then we have, diba, you have already mastered about the blood vessels from the renal arteries, segmental, tapos interlobar, arcuate, interlobular, until it goes down to the vein, right? Okay. So look at this. Look at this. The layer actually which protects the kidney is the capsule. Capsule. Then at the middle is the fat, right? And then at the outermost will be your fascia, diba? So these are the telomeres which try to protect the kidney, diba? So the layer which covers the kidney is actually the capsule. Then here we have the fats, and then we have here the fascia. Google search on that, and you will notice that they are actually protection. Okay, Always remember that the kidney is a retroperitoneal, meaning at the back of the peritoneum, retroperitoneal. What are examples of the retroperitoneal organs? Okay, retro. Examples are D, duodenum, P, pancreas, K, kidney, tapos descending and ascending portion of your colon, rectum, as far as I know, esophagus. Actually, the descending portion of your aorta, the descending portion of your aorta is actually a retroperitoneal. Okay. I'll just write because the people behind, the people surrounding me might get scandalized. Oh, look at this. It's like some sort of, oh, Doktora, Rhea, pwede mo tawagan tiya. Oh. Kita daw, oh. Oh. Kita ha. Doktora Rhea. Okay ha. So, duodenum, pancreas, kidney, adrenal glands. Tapos, descending and ascending portion of your colon. Rectum, esophagus, and actually, the aorta, the descending portion. Because you have, di ba, you have your aorta kasi ascending, arch, descending. Ha? It is retroperitoneal already. Depends upon the stage. So, ito naliwat, buyayaw naliwat. Oh, so, ha? Sige, okay. So those are retroperitoneal, ha? Who would forget that? Di ba? Okay. Okay, so next. Okay. Go, dito tayo. Sige. So this one, ha? You have actually understood that one already. So the purpose of this, ha? The purpose of this. So now actually, I will be talking less. You'll be looking more. Actually, by the vision in itself, because you know what this is, VISBR. That's what you call as VISBR. When you say VISBR, visual, verbal, I'm talking at the same time, but less words.
Yes, Doc.
Theoretical. VISBR. This is the VISBR instruction. Visual. You learn by vision because we have been talking theoretically na a lot before. And I have been talking this. You can talk and talk and talk simply because you have a technique for the theoretical to be converted into a visual. That's what I'm doing now. I actually am not looking at notes. I'm just talking and talking to you. And I enjoy teaching because I am seeing these things. So you know the purpose of this. The peritubular capillaries and the vasa recta, they're just the same. Only that the peritubular capillaries, they are seen at the cortex, while the vasa recta, they are there at the deeper portion of your medulla. But one function, they go to the renal vein so that whatever will be reabsorbed will be going back there, to our body system. And okay, so this afferent arteriole, then glomerulus, then efferent. So whatever that were not filtered, that they went here, will be get out also if they are bad, because they will be secreted from here, going there. Okay, ha? Okay. So, okay. When you see that one, okay, so, okay. That hard for this one. Okay, this one. Macula densa, when you see the macula D, always remember that this distal convoluted tubule, they are responsible for the sensing of your sodium. Densa. Okay. So if it senses that, simply because, if, for example, there is less blood flow going to the renal artery, simply because the renal artery has atherosclerosis. So therefore, going to the afferent arteriole will be less. So that therefore, less will be filtered. And if this less will be filtered, it will be sensed going to the distal convoluted as no sodium, doc. So, wow, this is very sensitive to the sodium. So it will tell the afferent arteriole to produce renin. So the renin now at the juxtaglomerular cells at the afferent arteriole, di ba, at the side. So it will produce actually renin. So renin therefore will convert the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Then angiotensin 1 is not yet a potent vasoconstrictor. It will go to the lungs. It will be converted by the ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme. Then angiotensin to therefore is a vasoconstrictor. A vasoconstrictor, yes, but it will call on the stimulation of also aldosterone, so that the aldosterone, at the distal convolution with the collecting duct, will absorb the sodium, and that water follows, increasing the blood volume. So the increased blood volume with the vasoconstriction will have a further increase in the blood pressure, right? Now, if the problem is too much, for example, if the atherosclerosis is too much, like that, it aside from the the angiotensin to producing the aldosterone, stimulating the aldosterone, it will also invite the ADH, the antidiuretic hormone, so that the antidiuretic hormone, especially here in the collecting ducts, aquaporin pores will be inserted and they will get opened, so that water from here will go back again here, right? Therefore, we'll go to the peritubular capillaries. So therefore, raising, therefore, more valve volume. So therefore, more blood pressure increase. Huh? Okay. So here, so remember, 70 to 80, usually the cortical nephrons, no vasa recta, but peritubular capillaries. Ha? Nandito. Kay cortical man, dito man tayo. So, no role in the production of concentrated urine. That's why even though it's 70 to 80%, actually, this is more popular because this is the one involved in the formation of a concentrated urine. Huh? So, okay. Look, if we use this Guyton on the early stage of your formation, you will not appreciate Guyton. Can you get me now? Now we are using this because I have prepared you, all of you, starting with Silis and Torturas and with the web. Now, we are using Guyton, as I told you. Now you find it easy. Huh? Because if we started with this before, immediately, you will learn less. I tell you. You will feel, you will hate physio. So now you love physio na. Okay, so now Guyton is now a friend. Before, Guyton is an enemy. But after you meet Silis and Torturas, you find Guyton friendly na. Okay, so we go. Say, go. How is urine formed? Pre-basic filtration, your absorption, secretion. And you know that one already, ha? Okay. Okay, review naman ini. So, this one, I got this from Torturas because it is actually there in Silis and Guyton, but it's hard to understand immediately. But why do we do it to make it hard? So, what is the normal filtration pressure? Normally, it is 10. How did you get it? Okay. How did you get 10? Because normally, the glomerular filtration pressure depends on three main pressures. So this is the glomerular, blood hydrostatic pressure, the capsular, and the blood. Actually, you just minus glomerular hydrostatic pressure that you have minus capsular minus blood. Why? Normally, di ba, this the glomerulus, di ba, here. Normally, of course, we have blood going there. Afferent man ini. So we have blood normally here going there. So it's actually hydrostatic, di ba? Hydrostatic. Okay.
Yes, Doc.
But there are things that will oppose that one. So first, that will oppose. If you will be putting more water here, because there, it's going there, but it will go with water. So therefore, it will be filtered and will be here. So therefore, this become filled with fluid. This will become therefore filled because you are feeling it. So, but this one becomes also a burden for, if you try to put na this time here, there will be now opposing. This will oppose, try to oppose. Because you have been feeling. Natural, mafe-feel it yan, diba? So, mafe-feel yan dyan siya. So, it will oppose. So, glomerular hydrostatic pressure, ito man, minus the capsular hydrostatic pressure, because the capsular hydrostatic, minus the blood color osmotic pressure, because remember, you have here solutes. Remember, this is the glomerulus. You have here solutes that are to be filtered, diba? And there are some solutes naman that are not to be filtered. For example, the albumin, they do not. Because they cannot go inside, diba? Because you have negative charges. They cannot go through because they have charges. And this is the renal filtrating membrane is also negative, di ba? Negative to negative. And besides, the red blood cells cannot get out simply because they are bigger compared with the pores. Alright, di ba? Ang galing natin, ano, para na tayo, as if the kidney was your friend before and you only met the kidney just with me a month ago. Now, as if we are talking with big sense, di ba? Look at the magic, Abram. Okay, so, remember, your albumins and your red blood cells are here. So, what will be the tendency if you have lots of solutes here? Water has the tendency to go there. Diba? Because of the osmosis, power of osmosis. So, it becomes also a burden for the glomerular because it's a heavy weight. Remember, it's the osmotic, the particles here, they tend to attract the water like that, huh? So therefore, it becomes a burden again for this going out. So therefore, glomerular hydrostatic pressure is capsular blood colloid osmotic pressure. Ha? Blood colloid osmotic pressure. So, diretsuhin nala. So, glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus, for example, if you have a glomerular hydrostatic pressure of 55 minus 15, the colloid, minus 30, the colloid osmotic pressure, this is the capsular 15, 10. Why is it hard? Diba? The problem is that other books make it hard. Jesus Christ, when in fact it would be that easily.
Yes.
Diba? So, go. So, that's very easy. So, okay. So, this one. So, remember, glomerular filtration, renal blood flow under control. Filtration pressure, since, okay. Look at this. In our body, we have inulin. Substance is filtered but not reabsorbed, inulin. Okay. We also have a substance that is filtered and partly reabsorbed. That is urea. Di ba? I told you, di ba? Kanina pa lang. It can be filtered but partly reabsorbed. Okay.
Yes,
Therefore, not really a good reflection of a kidney function in as much as if you have, di ba, you're a medtech, if you have met a lot of increased BUN, do not immediately get terrified that the problem is that you have a bad kidney because you try to get the BUN creatinine ratio good. Huh? BUN creatinine because creatinine is not reabsorbed. As long as it is 20:1, then that could still be good. Huh? Okay. So, substance filtered and partly absorbed urea. Substance filtered and completely absorbed glucose. That's why you really have a zero glucose in your urine. Huh? Because glucose is needed by our body. But if you have already positive glucose, meaning to say that there's something wrong in your kidney. There's something wrong because the glucose kasi, it has a saturating point. If beyond kasi a certain level that is there in your kidney to be reabsorbed, that cannot anymore reabsorb if it exceeds a certain level. So in diabetic kasi, you have too much glucose that is being filtered because you have a lot of glucose kasi. So it means bad, meaning to say that there's something wrong. Huh?
Yes.
So diabetic ka most likely. Okay. So substance filtered but not reabsorbed but secreted is para aminohymuric acid. Okay. So that is a renal handling of 4 hypothetical substances. So that's from Dr. Gogo, from Dr. Gaiton. Okay, ha? I would like to call on, actually, one example of here is creatinine as well. Di ba creatinine? Creatinine. Now, why is it that creatinine is partly reabsorbed? Okay. What? Di ba, the descend, if you remember first, you put this first, the proximal convoluted tubule muna dito. And remember, proximal convoluted tubule is 60% ba of the water and then the sodium and other solutes, they are usually reabsorbed at the proximal, di ba? Now, when we go to the descending, pero there are still some that will go. So, a part of the sodium will still continue. Kay only 65% man of the total filtrate, di ba? Of the water, of the sodium, of your electrolytes will be reabsorbed at the proximal convoluted. So, when you go down the descending limb of the loop of Henle, it is only, and then the descending limb as well, it is only water na is only permeable. Huh? Okay, a part of water is permeable, but your sodium, they are not. Diba? So that's why sodium gets concentrated here, and then as you go up the ascending limb, it is now sodium that goes here. Huh? But water is not permeable, only sodium. So they could
Yes,
continue
Doc.
here. Some sodium still goes up. No, it does, some still, not all. Huh? Pero if ever there will be reabsorbed, it's the sodium at the ascending limb. Okay? Asin. So when you go here, at the distal convoluted tubule, the sodium, di ba, there's some sodium here, can enter only through aldosterone. Huh? The hormone aldosterone. So then water follows. So some of the water follows. So therefore, urea kasi, urea, look at this. Urea kasi, as you go down, is reabsorbed. It can go here. Here. And the descending limb, and it can go also here. Okay. So, and then, they will be excreted out again. Okay. But, there are some here actually that can go to your vasa recta. Okay, ha? That's why you have urea recycling here, actually. But, okay, that is why we have what is the normal value of BUN in our body? Sige, no problem, ha? We will have the normal value later on. But what I would like you to do is, but urea, of course, can be excreted, ha? Only that there is some that reabsorb back, ha? Recycled again, ha? Recycled. Okay. So, aside from what are other areas in the body by which urea is excreted? Actually, the GIT, the stomach is also one of those things, the GIT. So, but usually it is urea. Urea kasi, the liver, our liver kasi, actually, the amino acids in our body, the catabolic parts of the protein in our body, actually are toxic. And that is in the form actually of ammonia. Ammonia.
Yes, Doc.
But ammonia kasi is very, very toxic if it tries to circulate in our body because they are byproducts man. If it circulates in our body kasi, in our blood, it will be very toxic, the ammonia. Because it will be toxic to the brain, di ba? Especially the ammonia, di ba? You have seen in the hospital, di ba, those with hepatic encephalopathy, by which because of their liver nga, they have a problem in their liver, they cannot anymore turn the ammonia into urea.
Okay, Doc.
That's why that ammonia cannot be turned to urea. That ammonia is very toxic. It will try to kill to damage your brain. That's why you have seen those patients with schistosomiasis. Di ba you are with leptospirosis as well. Di ba you have a medtech leptospirosis, your patient, your schistosomiasis. When you have a liver kasi that is already damaged, your liver kasi is important for the conversion of this ammonia that we accumulate in our body to urea. Ito man, look at this. I love to call this ammonia. Ammonia. Because in the liver, ammonia is converted to urea, right? Urea. And urea kasi is less toxic. And it is now favorable to be less toxic than ammonia. Therefore, it is now favorable to be excreted out na by the kidney.
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So, it is the liver which converts ammonia to urea. And urea is less toxic. Therefore, it can now go to the kidney to be excreted out. But, urea can still be recycled kasi. Okay. A blood urea nitrogen test measures the amount of nitrogen in your blood that comes from the waste product urea. Urea is made when protein is broken down in your body. Urea is made in the liver. So, di ba, the urea in the liver, it converts the ammonia from the waste products from protein breakdown. This the ammonia that results. The ammonia in the liver, ammonia will be converted into ammonia, urea in the liver and pass out of your body in the urine. A BUN test that is to see how well your kidneys are working therefore. Hakoy. So, what level of BUN indicates kidney failure? A glomerular filtration rate below 60 is a sign that the kidneys are not working properly. So, what is the normal glomerular filtration rate? Okay, don't remember that. 150 ml per. Okay, so we will see that later on. So it's a sign that kidneys are not working properly. Once the GFR decreases below 15, one is at high risk for needing treatment for kidney failure, such as dialysis or a kidney transplant. We will discuss na lang that dialysis on after our quiz because we will be dealing out kidney diseases. Actually, you've started with the kidney disease, di ba? Urethrosis, like that. But when we go to that point after the quiz, we'll be discussing about acute and chronic renal failure. Huh? So we will be discussing about dialysis. We'll just incorporate the link after the quiz. Urea nitrogens comes from the breakdown of protein in the foods that you eat. So becomes therefore ammonia. So it converts to become urea. A normal BUN level is between 7 and 20. Okay ha? 7 and 20. So here, the transamination in the liver, so the glutamic acid, keto, then so one of them will become the ammonia. Ammonia. So, because Dr. Monsanto and Dr. Dr. Paloma will say, not ammonia, Dr. Alcomit, ammonia. So, ammonia because ammonia is converted to urea. Kaya pala. Okay, so sige. So, ammonia, okay, it becomes a urea. So, blood. So, therefore, that can go to the kidney na to be excreted. Yun lang nare-recycle ito. Ha? So, not really not really as good as creatinine in the reflection because creatinine kasi is not reabsorbed but only excreted. So, yan ha. Hindi na, kay Dr. Monsanto na yan. Basta ang akin lang maalala mo at least ang ammonia. Ha? Okay. So, sige. Okay. Dami mo nang nalalaman. Blood urea nitrogen sources and fate. It can be excreted in the skin as well. Kidney, talagang pinakamarami. 40 ha. Pero, nakukuha rin yan sa GIT and including the stomach of course and then the skin. Kaya, I don't know ha, pero nakita nyo ata yun sa, na-scandalize ata kayo noon, di ba? Peptic ulcer, di sa stomach, di ba? If the peptic ulcer, you can have peptic ulcer, di ba? Peptic ulceration nga ni. Peptic ulceration, di ba? If this your mucosa, so if you have your mucosa, this your mucosa, then you have your di ba, the muscular wall na, di ba? And then the serosal wall, stomach. Okay? Pag mucosa pa lang, gastritis ang tawag. Kapag inangat-kat pa lang gastritis, pag pumasok na papunta dun sa submucosa and your muscular, diyan nagisimula na ang ulcer, ha? Papasok na. Tapos pag pwede pa yang papunta ng serosa mo, pwede mag-perforate yan. Kaya ka nakakarinig ng Dok, yung kanya daw ulcer, peptic ulcer disease daw, nag-perforate na daw. Dok, dakwa na daw, Dok, na pumutok na raw yung ulcer, nagkaroon na raw ng air doon sa peritoneum, which you call as pneumoperitoneum. Inoperahan po yung uncle ko kasi nasabi ng doktor, pumutok raw yung kanyang tiyan dahil sa ulcer. Ha? Perforated peptic ulcer yon. And that nakita po sa x-ray, meron po siyang pneumoperitoneum. Sabi ko lang ito kasi pag-aaralan nyo talaga yan, ha? Pneumoperitoneum. Nag-presence of air, nakita po dun sa x-ray. Paano ba nagkakaroon ng ulcer? Okay. Kasi, paano? Marami, di ba? Sabi mo, Dok, alam ko, Dok, nang medtech pa ako, H. pylori. Ito man, H. pylori po, Dok. H. pylori. Sabi na naman ni Doc Paloma. H. pylori, hindi pylori. Basta, Doc, gusto ko lang po H. pylori. Basta, pero pylori yan, of course. H. pylori. Pwede ring smoking, di ba? Increased. Tulad nyo, kung nagkaka-exam na, palagi kayo nagkakatensyon, di ba? Palagi kayo nagugutom. Palaging nag-i-increase ang hydrochloric acid nyo, marami kayo nagkakatensyon ba? Nag-i-examine nga, kain ng kain, hindi ko kayo masisi. Kasi nakakatensyon naman, di ba? Kayo ng kain kasi nakakagutom, nakakasakit, na. Tapos pag stress, maraming stress kasi pag exam, di ba? Yan, nagugutom na, kaya alam ko, lahat kayo, ako rin noon, nag-student ako, pag nag-exam na, lalo na pag biochem na yan, di ba, pag biochem na nag-stress talaga ako nung kasi memorize ka man. So, nagmahap din ang sikmura ko, kain na ako ng kain, nag-stack ako ng maraming pagkain. So, stress or cigarette smoking. Pero, ito ang pinaka-popular, H. pylori. It's a microorganism, di ba? It can be it can be in our body. Tayo lahat pwede tayong magkaroon niyan. Ha? So, pero may mga tao talaga, ang daming H. pylori nila. H. pylori. Alam ko, H. pylori yan, pero H. pylori gusto ko sabihin. Bakit? Bakit ba H. pylori sinasabi mo? Kasi po ganito. The H. pylori actually converts the urea, di ba? Meron tayong urea kasi na pwedeng ma-excrete sa tiyan. Sa GIT, di ba? So, therefore, sa tiyan. The H. pylori po, na microorganism, converts the urea in our, dito sa ating tiyan, kaya di ka also form, pwede man sila ma-excrete dyan, convert the urea into, H. pylori kasi is a urease. It is a urease, just like Klebsiella, di ba? It is a urease producing microorganism which convert urea into ammonia this time. Kaya pwede kasi yan silang, may relationship yan, pwede kasi yan silang pabalik-balik. Ha? Yung ammonia converted into urea. Urea can become ammonia. Pwede yan silang reversible. Ha? Okay. It converts po the urease producing ang H. pylori which converts urea into ammonia. Ammonia. That ammonia po, doktora, reacts with the hydrogen kasi. Meron tayo kasi hydrogen sa ating stomach, lumen. Kasi nag-react yan sa, with the, di ba, source yan para makaproduce ka ng hydrochloric acid kasi. Ha? Hydrochloric acid natin, source ang hydrogen. Ha? Source ang hydrogen. The ammonia reacts with the hydrogen in our stomach to become an ammonium. Ha? Ammonium. That ammonium kasi, according to Guyton ito ha, according to Guyton, that ammonium kasi is a demonium. It is a demonium because that ammonium tries to scratch your stomach mucosa first, and then it can penetrate the mucosa. First, gastritis, because of the mucosa. It can penetrate your mucosa to go to the wall. This time, ulcer na. Palalim. Ulcer na yan. Hanggang pumunta ng serosa. Pero pumutok yan, mag-perforate. Ha? So therefore, ammonium is a demonium. Actually, ammonium tries to destroy your mucosa. Ha? And then, the muscular portion as well, the serosa, until some time it can perforate. It can become a perforated peptic ulcer. So therefore, ammonium damages your stomach wall to produce ulcer. Diba, doctor? That's why ammonium is a demonyo. It's a demonium. Huh? Because it's bad. Again, how does H. pylori produces peptic ulcer? H. pylori po is a urease producing microorganism which converts urea into ammonia, the NH3. The NH3 reacts with the hydrogen in our lumen, stomach lumen, to produce ammonium. That ammonium is a destructive thing. It's bad, doktora, which tries to destroy your mucosa and even the submucosa and then the muscular wall and the serosa to produce therefore peptic ulceration. And if it perforates beyond the serosa, we have a perforated peptic ulcer. Therefore, air and then the substances will go to my peritoneum to produce pneumoperitoneum. And this is a surgical emergency. Okay? So, go. Okay. So, creatinine is a waste product produced by muscles from the breakdown of a compound called creatinine. Creatine. Huh? Creatinine is removed from the body by the kidneys, of course. Huh? So, creatinine is a waste product produced by muscles from a breakdown of a compound called creatine. Creatinine is removed from the body by the kidneys, which filter almost all of it from the blood and release it into the urine. This test measures the amount of creatinine in the blood and or the urine. So, almost all. So, it's very good. It's better than urea. So, di ba you're a medtech? So, now it makes much more sense to you. So, BUN normally is 6 to 20 or 7 to 20 in others, and creatinine naman is 0.7 to 1.4. So, the result here for this patient is normal, 16 and 0.8 normal. Okay, ha? Okay, so here. But this patient is abnormal. The BUN is 60 high and creatinine is 4.53. So, the ratio is bad. It's more than 20:1 because the normal creatinine ratio, BUN creatinine is 20:1. So if you convert this into a ratio, this is more than 1. This is more than, this is way beyond 20.
More than 20.
Oh, it is. So it's this abnormal. This are really the deficiency in this. So do not try to gauge do not try to gauge. Therefore, if you only have a BUN, that's unfair to judge it that way. You try to do the creatinine. So you try to do the BUN creatinine ratio. Okay, Okay.
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So a creatinine, a chemical-based molecule generated from muscle metabolism. Creatinine is transported to the bloodstream to the kidney. The kidneys filter most of the creatinine and dispose it in the urine. Okay. What is creatinine? It is a waste material created in the body during muscle metabolism. Kidneys filter and throw it out waste via urine. Patient with kidney disease can throw out this material. This results in high levels of creatinine in the blood. From Dr. Paloma. Okay. Okay. So, blood urea nitrogen, creatinine rate 20:1. Normal, optimum 12 to 20. So, if you have a low nitrogen BUN creatinine ratio, if you have a low, it could be acute tubular necrosis, it could be low protein intake, it could be from starvation, severe liver disease. Therefore, not necessarily a kidney disease, because this one is a kidney disease, but this one is not necessarily kidney disease. But if you have a BUN creatinine ratio that is high, more than 20, more than 1, it means to say prerenal uremia. If you have prerenal, maybe you have a, let's say for example, you have a hypotension which destroyed your kidney. You have to nourish your kidney with blood, because otherwise it cannot function. So definitely you will be having, what will happen? The tubules will die. If you have a decreased BP, for example, you are losing blood, the patient was stabbed, you will be losing blood. Di ba? 21% of the renal of the cardiac output is going to the kidney. So if you will not be providing that patient with a normal amount of 21, it will kill your tubules, because the tubules, di ba, they were the one to function. How can it function if you do not give blood or oxygen to that? So therefore, you will be tubular necrosis, and therefore you will have uremia, definitely. So that is indicative of a kidney disease as well. So high protein intake, then after GI bleeding. Now, if this one is the most dangerous, high with raised creatinine, because you may be, this one kasi, BUN creatinine ratio may be high, but this is the one kasi that is so high, the BUN. But this is the most dangerous. Like this one ba? Taas ito. Ito sa high creatinine. And this one is also high. So this falls to this one. So it could be prerenal uremia, it could be renal disease in itself, and it could be post-renal obstruction. Post-renal obstruction, for example, you have a big prostate gland, right? Di ba? Because the prostate gland, if you remember, di ba, they have the di ba, you have here the urethra, prostatic urethra, di ba, urethra? So if you have a big prostate gland, di ba, your urethra is here, we have prostatic urethra, then you have your other portion of your urethra. So if you will be, just imagine, you will be compressing this. The urine cannot get out, di ba? Because after the ureter, your urethra man, di ba? After your ureter will be your urethra, di ba? So if this is your if this is your urinary bladder, di ba, urinary bladder, this is your urethra man here, this is your ureter, okay. If you have a big prostate gland, this one will be narrowed. This one, your prostatic urethra. So urine from the urinary bladder cannot get out, cannot. So it will go here. Your urine can go up. So therefore, you will have, what will happen? Hydronephrosis. Very good. Meaning, you will have fluid in your pelvocalicial system or pelvocallictasia, di ba? So, I thank you very much for your response. I know that you are learning. I know that you all is learning. Because just imagine talking those terms, as if you have, you know what, I congratulate you all, you and the med one, because I know that if this were only a face-to-face class, many would be talking, and they would participate. So I congratulate you all, because I have been a first year also. Kasi I have also been a first year kasi. My classmates were not doing that. They were not doing that. It's very, very far from your level of thinking. So I thank God for that. So continue that. Continue that. So you all of you. So very good. You keep it up. I congratulate you. I am amazed. Actually, I'm amazed. Okay, so sige ha. Okay. That's the kind of response that I actually would like to see. Actually, I can see it in Zoom. Even though I'm not face-to-face, I can see it in Zoom. Okay, so continue ha. What causes creatinine levels to be high? Filtration process failure. Of course, definitely. High blood pressure as well. Okay. Because if you have high blood pressure, my God, how can you give blood oxygen to your kidneys? So you will have tubular necrosis. Diba?
Yes, Doc.
So filtration process failure, you cannot filter the blood. And what are those problems? One, Doc, glomerulonephritis, glomerulopathy, Doc. Rhabdomyolysis is also because that's rhabdomyolysis means yung muscle ba? Like this is a disease by which, because your muscles lies, you will have greatly increased creatinine, di ba? And if you have great increased creatinine is a toxic to your body. Your kidney still can get out, but it cannot. If you have so much of creatinine, remember, your kidney has a capacity only at one point of a time to excrete that creatinine. But if you will have rhabdomyolysis, it's difficult. So you will be toxic. So it will damage, of course, your kidney as well because it is toxic. So go. So therefore, we have seen that one already discussed. So therefore, glomerular filtration, first step in urine formation, GFR is 20% of renal plasma flow. So GFR this one is a very favorite exam question. Glomerular filtration rate, take note of this, is 125 ml or 180 liters per day. 125. So 180 liters per day, Doc, we mean to say, but what is it, Doc, that the urine output is only an average of 1 to 1.5 liters per day. But you can, the intake, you mean to say the one that is filtered is 180 liters per day. That's true. Because remember, our body fluid, diba, is composed of intracellular and extracellular ba ya? Diba? the intracellular is almost 70%, di ba? Mga 6 to 70%, the intra. While the milieu interior, the extracellular fluid is around, di ba, 30%. So just imagine the millions and millions and millions and millions of cells that you have. So this comes to the water, huh? So we are, you just say, Doc, why is it that my body, so what's supposed to be, it's composed of too much of fluid. Why is it that it is not almost equivalent to the, just imagine the how many liters that I see, that the big liter? Because you know what? We have insensible losses kasi. We perspire, di ba? We perspire, and when we breathe, we also lose actually water. Di ba? Di ba, their lecture, di ba, before, we have insensible losses. We also lose water through the way we breathe, to our skin, to our discharges, mucosa, di ba, to our muhog, to our the eyes, and then we also urinate, huh? But actually, we have lots of water in our body. So no wonder the one to be filtered is around 180 liters per day, huh?
Yes, Doc.
So, but only this one gets out simply because there are also other ways by which water can be get. And we also spend a lot of water in our body metabolism. How we spend. That's why there's lots of water really. That's why we don't have to be dehydrated. So therefore, the GFR is 125 ml per minute or 180 liters per day. So filtrate is similar to plasma but no cells or protein. So remember, but no cells or protein. So albumin is not filtered because of its negative charge.
Negative charge.
Okay, negative. Albumin, ito man, albumin, negative. The renal filtrating membrane is also negative, right? So therefore, negative to negative poles, do not attract. So therefore, albumin cannot get out. But if you have nephrotic syndrome, nephrotic, that is the congenital, congenital. So therefore, in nephrotic syndrome, di ba, your renal filtrating membrane is composed of the pores of the glomerulus, di ba? The pores, and then the basement membrane or the basa lamina,
Membrane,
and then
podocytes.
the podocytes, the pedicels, the filtration slits, right, of your visceral layer of your parietal, visceral layer of your Bowman's capsule, right? So normally this is negative in charge, negative in charge normally, but your albumin is also negative. Albumin is negative. So albumin, therefore, they repel. That's why it cannot get out. Even though it may be small to enter, but it cannot, simply because you have negative charge. That's why albumin cannot just get into. But if in nephrotic syndrome, the negativity charge of your renal filtrating membrane is abnormal. It has no negative charge. Therefore, because of that, the albumin now
Will pass
can
through.
enter, will push through.
Yes.
Okay, So, because albumin is small in size, in the pores, it can get out in the pores. Okay, it's too small, but the red blood cells cannot get out of the pores. Because it's too small, it can even actually enter pala the basal lamina, because the medium-sized proteins, the medium-sized protein cannot anymore enter. But albumin is too small actually. It can still go. But thanks to the negativity, it cannot. Okay. But if you lose the negativity, it can go out na.
Yes, Doc.
So, okay. But in glomerulonephritis, which is usually due to post-streptococcal, after streptococcal infection, you develop antibodies kasi. Self-antibodies that will destroy your autoimmune complexes, will destroy autoimmune complexes produced by will destroy your renal filtrating membrane. So it will widen your pores, it will increase the permeability of renal filtrating membrane. So therefore, albumin can get out because of increased permeability, and red blood cell as well can get out because you have destroyed your renal filtrating membrane. The pores make big, so they get out. So therefore, in glomerulonephritis, no wonder you also see proteins in your urine and at the same time red blood cells.
Red
But
blood
in
cells.
red blood cells. But in your nephrotic syndrome, you do not. You do not see red blood cells. Only increased amount of albumin in the urine. Ha? Okay. But in the blood, you have hypoalbuminemia. Hypoalbuminemia because they went out na. Ha? Okay.
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So therefore, you know this one ha already. You know this one already. Okay ha? The minus lang, minus ala. The glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus the capsular blood. Ha? Okay. So it becomes 10. So 55. So the normal usually is 10. If you are made to calculate, you just get the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. It will be given to you. You minus the capsular, you minus the blood colloid. That becomes your net filtration pressure. But granting it is a normal, the normal is 10. Okay. So look at how Guyton presented this one. I got this from Tortura kasi. He's trying to make this hard. So, malagi hapon, answer. Oh, look at that. Oh, so, okay.
Yes, Doc. Similar lang, Doc.
Oh, similar, pero easier adi. Easier adi. Okay. Okay, so, sige. And ala ito, kay trying to make complicated is trying to make the complicated. Ayun na ito. Tanaguduho. How can you appreciate that things there nga trying to Maria Joseph, okay, so
Thanks to Salis.
di ba ginakanta na ito, di ba naginakan na kita ito. So na ito diyan ay I will actually I will include this pero ayaw na lang na yan. I will do this in the after the quiz, this one. This is important, of course, This one. Actually I have also this one, a simpler thing for this one, But I'll just do that na lang during the time when we discuss about the diseases of the kidney. This one. Okay. Kakuri man ito, Dok. Kayo nga lang, ambot din nga. Ini kasi Guyton kasi, kontrabida kasi. Okay, ambot arte-arte nga. Madadali naman yung pinakuri. Okay. So, tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism intended to stabilize sodium delivery to the distal tubule has two components stuck together to control GFR. Afferent arterial feedback and efferent arterial depends on special anatomic arrangement of the juxtaglomerular apparatus. The tubuloglomerular. It has something to do, if I remember the tubuloglomerular, pamati ko, Dok, it has something to do with the distal tubule and then the globulus. Bakit may feedback ba? Okay, so sige. Ito natin. Ito naman, macula densa ng JG cells. Kay feedback, di ba? Di ba I told you, di ba, the distal convoluted tubule and then the afferent arteriole, di ba, afferent, at the sides of the afferent arteriole, you have here the juxtaglomerular cells. So, at the distal convoluted tubule, you have the macula densa. It tries to sense the sodium. So, nag-feedback niya because if decrease na sodium di masiring niya, sasabihin niya dito sa afferent sa JG cells na mag-produce ka naman ng renin. So, feedback nga. So, therefore, yung juxtaglomerular apparatus niya, kulang pa yan. Actually, meron yan sa mga maraming textbook. Siya lang kasi nagkasabing dalawa lang. Sa maraming textbook talaga, 3 daw yan. So, ang dagnang nila natin, mesangial cells. So, mesangial cells. So, ang mesangial cells, they helps in the contraction process of glomerulus. And others say they also produce the erythropoietin. Di ba kidney produce erythropoietin, di ba? Erythropoietin is the one that helps us in the production of red blood cells. That's one of the role of the kidneys. The hormone erythropoietin helps in the production of red blood cells. That's why yung may mga kidneys kasi na, yung mga patients kasi na may kidney disease, naging anemic sila. Naging anemic talaga sila, tingnan mo. Kasi kung sira ng kanilang kidney, hindi sila makaproduce ng erythropoietin. Erythropoietin kasi is a hormone which helps in the blood bone marrow for the production of red blood cells, para hindi ka maging anemic. Okay. So, macula densa, the juxtaglomerular apparatus therefore consists of the macula densa, JG cells. So, feedback siya. Tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism dahil ito na nga ang pinag-uusapan natin sa renin, angiotensin, aldosterone, ADH mechanism, ha? Okay. Yan na yon. Okay. So, ang mesangial cells yan, tapos distal, the macula densa, senses sodium. Okay? Tapos, malapit lang siya kasi sa afferent arteriole na kung saan ang afferent ay nandyan yung juxtaglomerular cells. And ang juxtaglomerular cells, I love to say this JR ba? JR, juxtaglomerular junior kasi ako junior kasi ako Romualdo Redonia Junior. So juxtaglomerular renin para sa akin ang R. Ha? Okay. So it helps in the production of renin by the juxtaglomerular if macula densa senses it. Another thing is to learn is the process. Decreased macula densa sodium chloride causes the dilatation of afferent arterioles. Sinasabi niya sa afferent arterioles, binapadelate niya ang afferent arterioles and increase therefore the formation of renin from the J cells that eventually leads therefore to constriction of the efferent arterioles. Kasi yung renin kasi nagpo-produce ng di ba renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 2. Ang angiotensin 2 as a vasoconstrictor, ito ang talagang pinupunteryan niya, ang efferent arteriole, nagkukonstrict rin siya. Ha? Aside from the constriction also of the other vessels. Ha? So, okay.
Yes, Doc.
Okay, ha? So, tuman, adi man pala. Oh, yun. So, pag sinabi niya na kulang ako ng sodium dito, magtulungan niyo ako para ma-raise natin ang ating blood pressure, pinapadilate niya ang afferent arteriole para makarelease ng renin, ha?
Renin.
Para makarelease ng renin. Tapos pag nakarelease ng renin, angiotensin to, therefore magkukonstrict ng vessel. So among those vessels na kinukonstrict ng ating katawan will be the efferent arteriole. Okay, ha? Okay. Yan ang tubuloglomerular feedback. Okay. So, the main purpose of this feedback is to ensure a constant delivery of sodium chloride to the distal tubule while finer processing of the urine takes place. Okay, good. How do you urinate? At pupunta rin ito natin doon sa disease of the kidney. Sisingit natin after the quiz. Pero mag-channel lang muna tayo. Di ba nagkaroon tayo dito ng background sa ureterovesical reflux, di ba? Voiding due to contraction of the detrusor muscles, internal sphincter, to prevent emptying of the bladder. So pag naiihi tayo kung nakukontract ng ating detrusor muscle, ang detrusor muscle, yan ang dito sa ating wall ng ating urinary bladder, ha? So internal sphincter tone prevents emptying of the bladder. External sphincter also, pareho rin sila ng prevents pag nag-constrict kasi internal sphincter mo, tapos meaning to say, huwag kang iihi. Okay? Constricted man siya. Pero pag, for example, na-stretch ng yung urinary bladder ba, dahil puno na ng ihi, mag-o-open ang ating sphincter. Ha? So, usually, role ng ang parasympathetic pag parasympathetic, one of the parasympathetic response ay umihi tayo. Umihi tayo. So, therefore, nagkukontract ang yung detrusor muscle, nag-o-open ang ating sphincter. Ha? So,
Yes,
ito namang ang nerves, ang pelvic nerves carry both the sensory and nerve fibers and the motor nerve fibers, and then the pudendal nerves supply the external bladder sphincter. So, okay. So, you know what? You didn't have to worry on this kasi I am one of your teachers kasi in neurophysiology. Pag-uusapan natin ito na mas mabuti. Ha? Doon ko ito isisingit. Ha? Just for academic reasons lang. So, urine, micturition reflex, ipapasok mo ito doon sa neurophysiology. Hirap niya, ano? Tingnan nyo. Ang hirap talaga ni Gayton. Grabe. Sinimplify na ni Dr. Gogo yan. Sinimplify niya. Nahihirapan pa rin siya. Oh, so, mas pagagandahin ito ni Silis at ng lalo na pag may picture na sa ano, pag may picture niya sa ano sa radiographic anatomy, sa CT sa ultrasound, mas maintindihan 'yan, mas maintindihan 'yan. Okay. Grabe na boring naman ito na mga boring na si great ano Dr. Adibayani, Dr. Eliane, hello. Grabe na grabe talaga si Gaito na, no, brutal talaga siya, si brutal. Sadista grabe.
Wordy.
So walang kakulay-kulay, walang kakulay-kulay. Okay. Sa buti lang nag-thank you na siya. Okay, so sige. Anong oras na? What's your time there? Dr. Eliane?
10:50 a.m. ma'am.
At?
10:50.
10:15. 10:50?
50 po. Oh.
10:50 na. My God. Sige. 5 minutes break na lang tayo. 5 minutes break lang ha. Diyan lang kayo. You drink water, urinate. Babalik tayo kaagad kay may reviewer pa. Mag-review tayo. May matapos mayroon pang konti. Sige lang. Mag-break tayo. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Sige. 5 minutes.